Hey everybody, welcome back to another Star Wars video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about why exactly Star Wars has failed underneath Disney. As many of you guys know, today marks the official day that George Lucas sold the rights of Star Wars over to Disney. And this happened all when I was around 10 or 11 years old. I think I was 11 actually. So around that time, I had actually thought this was going to be a great thing because obviously I was an 11-year-old kid. I was into Disney at the time. And at the same time, my favorite franchise outside of Disney was now conjoining, and I'm thinking, okay, Disney, I already knew Disney had a lot of money. I mean, that's something that you discover when you're like 8 years old. You already know that they're one of the most richest and most powerful companies on the entire planet. And that's something you find out when you're like 8, 9 years old. So it's no secret that it should be getting a boost, right? You know, all your franchises join it, right, should get a big boost. And, I mean, it got a boost in revenue, I guess you could say, but it hasn't necessarily been a boost in storytelling. And that was Disney's first mistake. I mean, they went in thinking that this would just be a cash grab for everybody. Like, oh, everybody's going to love whatever we put out because it's Star Wars. And that's not necessarily the truth. What pulled people into Star Wars was that this is a vast universe. It's so deep and so compelling that even I can't even comprehend it right now as myself. And it's something that fans wanted to see explored and expanded upon because George never actually got the chance to do that himself. He expanded it to a point, but we thought that Disney could take it further, but they absolutely ruined that. Now, when Disney bought Star Wars, we all knew that they'd be adding their own new characters within the Star Wars franchise. We knew that this was going to happen the moment that they bought it. But the issue is that it's the way that they handled it. They handled it so piss poor to the point where you don't even recognize what came before. And this is one thing that I absolutely hate that stories and franchises do all the time, especially when they're bringing in something new. They like to shit on the past instead of bringing up the new characters along with the past. So let's take Luke Skywalker, for example. I mean, we didn't even necessarily recognize him in the sequels. I mean, he had completely gone against everything that Luke stood for. Luke was a guy who never gave up. Luke was a guy who was willing to go all the way to the edge just to save someone. I mean, he did this when he saved Darth Vader. I mean, at the end of the day, Luke was able to pull Anakin out of the abyss of the darkness and bring him back to the light. But in the sequels, when it came to Kylo Ren, he absolutely gave up within the first thought that his nephew could be turned to the dark side of the Force. He tried to kill him, and that's completely against what Luke Skywalker would have done. And this is what I mean by they completely destroyed the past in order to bring up the future. And that's not what needs to happen in any kind of franchise whatsoever to any capacity. What you need to do is interject your own story within and make it a good, cohesive story. And that's why when you buy something like Star Wars, you can't necessarily think that, oh, I'm just going to rake in a ton of cash with this now. That's not the case. That's not exactly what it means. What it means is you have to keep continuing what George had created. It's completely fine to write your own stories, but when you completely shit on whatever George Lucas created and then you bastardize fans and you say that, oh, we just hate this because we're this, and that, then that's where you start to lose people. When it comes to buying big IPs, a lot of people are going to be apprehensive against it anyway. I mean, that's almost like moving to a new city. You're going to be apprehensive against it because you're not necessarily knowing what's supposed to go on or where you're supposed to be headed, who you're supposed to talk to. And what a lot of Star Wars fans is we love George Lucas's legacy. Now, no, we're not necessarily saying that everything has to be exactly the way George Lucas wanted it to be because that's just not realistic whatsoever. But what we wanted to see was complete and total respect to what George had already established and what George has already had going on. I mean, if you guys remember, he was actually in the middle of writing and producing the 7th movie when they actually bought Star Wars from him. But what Disney decided to do was disrespect all the established characters, disrespect the established lore, completely rewrite things, and try to interject our own stories without actually respecting the past. As I said before, you can interject your own stories, but you need to respect the past. I mean, it was all over the Acolyte's press tour. I mean, when they went on their press tour for the Acolyte, the show, which has been an absolute bomb, as we all saw, it was a complete and terrible show. When they went on their press tours, they were talking about how insignificant Anakin Skywalker is and how he can't be the only special person in the entire galaxy. And that's just not the case whatsoever. It's just that Anakin Skywalker has his own unique story, and all of Star Wars is shaped around what the Skywalkers do. And I'm also not saying that George Lucas would have not been just as controversial, because there is actually a few times that George Lucas was going to be controversial if he actually made the sequels the way he wanted them to be. Like at one point, George Lucas actually had it that Luke Skywalker actually wasn't the chosen one, and that Anakin Skywalker wasn't the chosen one. He was actually going to make Leia the chosen one. And that would have been revealed way later on, but I honestly still believe that it still would have been a great cohesive story that made a lot of sense. The way that Disney handled Leia being force sensitive was complete and total. It was just wrong. It would just look so wrong. It wasn't done right in any way, shape, or form, and it just made no sense. But ever since Disney has bought Star Wars, it has just been miss after miss after miss after miss, with a couple of spotlights there, here and there. But I honestly hope a lot of this changes. I mean, they do have a couple good characters. I mean, they have Kylo Ren, who I think has some of the most potential out of all the Disney Star Wars characters. And I also think John Boyega's character, Finn, does have as well. But that's up to Disney to actually write a good, cohesive story around them and not bullshit around, because they actually do have some fire here with those two characters, in my opinion. But overall, I think that Disney has completely and totally mishandled Star Wars. I think they completely and totally mishandled what George was trying to create. And outside of what Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 and, Clone Wars Final Season and Bad Batch, they've completely mishandled their own actual stories. I mean, if you look at the Obi-Wan TV show, it was barely even about Obi-Wan. It was barely even about Darth Vader. It was more so about Reva. But the scenes that we got with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in it, they were actually amazing. But, I mean, outside of that, the couple of scenes that we had, I mean, it just wasn't enough to suffice what that show was about. And they turned Obi-Wan TV show completely around and turned it about Reva. And I think that was absolutely messed up, because they know how much fans love Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. We all love Anakin Skywalker. We all love Obi-Wan Kenobi. We all love Darth Vader. So to use them as just a marketing ploy to pick up essentially just a Reva show was absolutely disgusting. I mean, it was pretty much the Reva show in everything but name. And also now we have a big plot hole within Star Wars, because we now have a character, Reva, who is just wandering the galaxy, who is still alive, by the way, after surviving 3 total stabs. Well, I mean, just 2, but one where she's just constantly walking around injured now, but she's now survived 2 whole stabs, and now at the same time she knows exactly who Darth Vader is, she knows exactly who Luke Skywalker was, and it's just weird now, because that creates a whole plot hole. And this is why people don't like Reva. She just makes no sense as a character. And now I've been called multiple things in the past about talking about Reva. I've been called racist and everything in between, so go ahead and call me that if you want to. I really don't care at this point. Overall, I just truly believe that Disney has mishandled Star Wars, and I honestly hope that it does change, because at this point, we all know that Disney will never get the rights. They'll never give the rights to Star Wars up. So the best thing that we can do as fans is keep giving our criticism and hope that things change around. But anyway, that's all I got for this video. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. May the force be with you, and as always, have a great rest of your day.